Ever since like everyone started easing off, like I'm not gonna, like my parents also started easing off on me, so I didn't take it as serious as I should have been, I guess.
And that's the message from Canada's top public health officials.
Given what we just seen in the numbers, we have to act now in those big jurisdictions, those urban areas right now.
New projections show on our current track, the country could hit 5,000 cases a day by the end of October.
I don't think people are going to easily go back to control measures again unless it is, thrust upon them.
It's very clear that rates are still going up, and so we don't have this under control at the moment, and the increases that Chris has described in some areas are of concern, and as I've said, will lead to further problems.
Prime Minister urging Canadians to continue wearing masks, physical distancing, and to download the government's contact tracing app.
Students in Scotland have been told not to go to pubs, restaurants or parties this weekend after the Scottish Government claimed these measures will help slow the spread of COVID-19 among students. After hundreds of students in Scotland tested positive for coronavirus, strict measures have been introduced, which if broken could see them being kicked out of university. Socialising must be conducted with the people within your accommodation, and a new yellow and red card system has been introduced to police students. More than 1,000 students are self-isolating, whilst all university goers are being told they must download the NHS Test and Trace app. However, the strict rules, which come as Freshers' Week takes place, are being criticised by some for being too draconian and an overreaction. The National Union of Students Scotland described the moves as unjustified and deeply concerning.
As much as a quarter of the UK's population will come under tighter coronavirus restrictions after new rules come into force this weekend affecting Cardiff, Leeds and Blackpool. Households will be banned from mixing with other households. England is seeing a rapid rise in coronavirus cases, with London now on the hotspot watch list.
Infection rates are rising fastest in England in the northwest, Yorkshire and the Humber, London and the northeast.
Public health restrictions are being reimposed. Ontario's Premier announced new rules today that apply across the province.
Effective today at midnight, all bars and restaurants will be only permitted to remain open until midnight. All adult entertainment clubs will be closed right across the province. And tomorrow going forward, restaurant and bars must stop serving alcohol at 11 p.m. and close their establishments by midnight.
Unless we get our act together, unless we unite and turn our fire against our common foe, we know that everyone will lose.
It does feel kind of like a prison.
Yeah, because we're not allowed to leave here, the gates.
And it's like all the fences just make it...
Like a zoo?
Yeah.
I very much want students to be able to go home at Christmas, and if we all pull together and observe these new rules, we follow the guidance, then we will be able to get to a point where that should be possible.
They've sat on their hands, they've encouraged students back. Students are now locked down into incredibly expensive accommodation because this government would rather the staff and students and university communities pay with their health than they actually pay to sustain the sector.
The World Health Organization, through its representative at the local office in China, gave its support and understanding to start administering experimental coronavirus vaccines while clinical trials are still underway.
Thousands of students have had to be confined to their rooms, but the Culture Secretary, Oliver Dowden, says it's important their studies aren't sacrificed because of the virus.
People are really struggling, especially with like anxiety and obviously depression, because they're being taught that they're locked up, so basically it's like claustrophobic.
And the top story this morning is that new laws come into force in England today, which mean that anyone who tests positive for coronavirus or has been told they have been in contact with someone who has, now has a legal duty to stay at home or face a fine.
The government says that the police will check up on those who fail to comply by acting on local intelligence.
More measures came into effect on Monday in Paris and 10 other major cities. Bars will now have to close at 10 p.m. the latest, while gyms will be forced to shut down completely.
Ok le port du masque, ok la distanciation sociale, mais la fermeture des bars à 22h, je comprends pas. Enfin, clairement, le Covid à minuit ou à 22h, c'est la même chose.
J'ai l'impression que tout le monde est un peu perdu, et les politiques en premier, donc c'est pas très rassurant.
Northern England could face a 2-week lockdown if coronavirus cases continue to rise rapidly, meaning pubs and restaurants will be forced to close and households will be told not to mix.
A startling spike in cases we're seeing in both Ontario and Quebec. The two provinces reporting numbers yesterday not seen in some 5 months. Sunday was the 10th straight day of more than 1,000 cases across Canada, with more than 9,000 identified in the last week alone.
The regional government of Madrid has increased its coronavirus restrictions. About 1 million people in 45 districts in the Spanish capital are now under a lockdown enforcement by police checkpoints. However, the country's health minister says that even stricter measures might be needed to control the pandemic.
Now, unfortunately, as case rates have gone up, we've needed to introduce more of these local measures. On Friday, we introduced new restrictions on household mixing for Wigan, Stockport, Blackpool and Leeds. And today, I must announce further measures for the parts of the North East where we introduced local action a fortnight ago. We know that a large number of these infections are taking place in indoor settings outside the home. And so, at the request of the local councils, with whom we've been working closely, we will introduce legal restrictions on indoor mixing between households in any setting.
Let people know you're senators. I'm not going to answer the question because the question is the radical left. Will you shut up, man? Who is on your list, Joe?
This stunning news. The President of the United States now confirming to the world that he and the First Lady of the United States have both tested positive for the coronavirus and they will quarantine.
More than 750 students have tested positive for the coronavirus at Northumbria University in Newcastle. Almost all of them showed no symptoms. It's the biggest outbreak so far at any university in the UK.
You certainly get the impression that coronavirus is rife among the community. Everybody seems to know somebody who's got it. The slightly better news, though, is that the 770 Northumbria students who have tested positive, only something like 78 of them are showing symptoms at the moment. But you do get the feeling that there are many, many hundreds, if not thousands of students in this city who are having to stay behind closed doors at the moment and will do for some days yet.
As cases continue to rise in Spain, the country's capital and many surrounding suburbs prepare to enter another soft lockdown to contain the second wave of coronavirus. The new national health regulations restrict movements in cities with high COVID infection rates, restricting trips in and out of Madrid. Social gatherings have been limited and business hours cut in cities recording 500 cases or more per 100,000 residents. Madrid is now forming a legal challenge to the national government order requesting those new measures.
Me parece que se ha llevado a los extremos, al grado que la han puesto yo creo que no es correcto, o sea que no está basado en, sí, por lo que yo he leído y estudiado, más o menos investigado sobre informes médicos, temas, un tema más político que otra cosa.